Megan here from meganmins.com, and I am so excited for today's live episode of the Productive Life podcast. So if you are joining me live, go ahead and let me know, leave me a comment or reaction, and tell me how you're doing today. So again, welcome to a live episode of the Productive Life podcast. I'm Megan Mins. I help course creators, service providers, and coaches learn how to run their business in a way that's simple, profitable, scalable, and most importantly, gives them the personal time that they've always wanted. So you are here today. I'm so excited to have you. Let me know, give me a wave. If you're here on Instagram, if you're here on Facebook, give me a comment or a reaction, and be sure to tag a friend if you think they will benefit from today's live show, because we are talking all about how to overcome fear in your business. Now, I'm sure all of us have felt fear before. I know I do regularly. So if you've ever experienced fear in your business, let me know, give me a reaction if you're here live. And just let me know that, and let everyone know that we're not in this alone and we all experience this sometimes. I know for me, fear can look a little different sometimes. Sometimes I've been afraid of what others will think of me. Sometimes I've been afraid of failing and messing up. Sometimes I've been afraid of success, which might sound a little backwards, but it's absolutely true. And the added responsibility that can come from it. I've been afraid of letting other people down, and I've been afraid of letting myself down. And the really unfortunate part about fear in business is that it's inevitable. And if you let it, these types of fears can really hold you back, slow you down, and stop you in your tracks completely. Because running a business isn't easy. You're being vulnerable every time you show up in any way for your business. You're taking risks and you're putting yourself out there. And that's why we aren't trying to avoid fear or remove fear. What we're trying to do is overcome the fear so that it doesn't hold you back and slow you down anymore. That's why we're talking about this today. Because if you let fear stop you, you'll never achieve your goals of building a successful online business and a life that you love. So that's why we're talking about it. Let's jump into how we can overcome fear. We're going to be addressing this in two different ways. So first, we're going to talk about some of the thoughts and beliefs you have around fear, because before we can get practical and tactical, we need to understand fear a little bit better. So we're going to start there, and then don't worry, we will absolutely get into the practical tips as well. So let's try to understand fear a little bit better. A lot of your fear is actually being driven by your brain trying to keep you alive and your subconscious. Your brain's entire job is to keep you alive, and your subconscious is doing that by keeping you safe and as safe as possible. And that part of our brain, the subconscious, the part you're not really aware of, is very evidence-based. So everything that you have done up until now has kept you alive. So anything that is new and not something you've done before is going to absolutely freak your subconscious out. Your brain will think that it's a risk to do something new, that it doesn't know if it's safe or not. So that is a big part of why this fear may be happening for you in the first place. So every time you show up to do a live stream, send an email, go on social media, pitch something to a client or a potential client, that part of your brain will push back against you and create that fear and that resistance purely because it wants to keep you alive. Now, the good thing is that we can actually show and teach our subconscious that these new things we want to be doing aren't necessarily something we need to be afraid of. They aren't necessarily that big of a risk or putting your life in danger. But the only way to do that is by taking action despite the fear. It's your subconscious for a reason. We can't necessarily reason with it on a conscious level. So we have to show our evidence-loving subconscious self that it is safe to do these things. And every time you take action through this fear and despite the fear, you are showing your subconscious that it is okay to do this, and it will become more and more comfortable with you doing this over time. So that's the first thing, is that fear is there because part of your brain is trying to keep you safe, and we can really respect that, right? So we don't need to judge ourselves for fear or feel less than because we're experiencing fear. Instead, we can understand that it's actually quite normal, and our brain is just doing what it can to keep you safe. So the second thing we need to understand when it comes to fear is that the only way to overcome fear is through action, just like I was touching on a second ago. It doesn't matter how much thinking, researching, or planning, or even talking about something you do, it's not going to remove the fear. It may make you feel a little bit better. I'm a big lover of learning and researching. I absolutely find myself falling back into this habit of feeling like I have to know more in order to be confident and take action. But the truth is that you have to take action despite the fear. The fear will never go away just from thinking and watching YouTube videos or reading about something. So you have to start practicing doing things even when you feel afraid. We will, like I said, talk about the practical of how to do this in just a few minutes, so stay tuned. But first, I need you to understand and agree and adopt this belief that you will have to work through the fear. You'll have to take action through the uncomfortability, the discomfort of being afraid. So that's something we need to have a very clear understanding of. And the last, belief or mindset shift we need to have around fear is that the goal isn't to never feel fear again. Every single online business owner that you look up to experienced fear on a daily basis when they were first starting out. And I guarantee you is still experiencing fear as they run and grow and scale their business. Everyone experiences fear. Taking action does get easier over time. Things become less scary, but the fear will be there in your business. Things will still scare you. It just may shift from jumping on a live stream to hiring a team or leading a team or scaling or making investments. This fear and how it shows up will evolve, but we aren't trying to get rid of fear. We are trying to learn how to work through the fear. I still get nervous and experience fear all the time in my business. Even before jumping on live, I get butterflies and nerves. So even though this is something that may not freak my subconscious out as much as it used to, we can still worry about what's going to happen because we're human, but we have to still show up anyways. So those are kind of the big beliefs and thoughts and understandings I want you to have around fear in order for you to even apply the practical stuff we're about to talk about. So if this is making sense for you so far, let me know if you're here live. So give me a reaction, leave a comment, and let me know that this is making sense to you and that you are ready to change the way you think about fear from now on, and you're ready to start taking action through your fear. So just let me know that you're here with me live and that you are ready to go, because we are about to get into the practical, tactical parts of how to take action through the fear. There are ultimately 5 questions that I want you to ask yourself when it comes to overcoming this fear, so that in the moment you're experiencing this fear, you can take action through it by answering these simple questions. And at first, it may be a more intentional practice where you have this list of questions and you journal them out, but eventually this can be a very quick thought process that you do without even realizing it. So let's jump into these 5 questions you're going to ask yourself in the moment when you're experiencing fear so that you can take action through the fear. So the first question is, what are you actually afraid of? I want you to actually answer this question too. So if you can think of something that's holding you back because you're afraid of something right now, answer these questions alongside as you're listening and following. So what are you actually afraid of? We need to understand what this fear is more tangibly than just I'm afraid or I'm scared. So are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of judgment? Are you afraid of success? Is it a more specific fear than that? So actually declare and identify what that fear is. So that's step number 1 in the moment, because like I said, what's causing fear will shift and evolve over time. Regardless, we need to call it out. So question number 1 to answer when you're having that moment is, what are you actually afraid of? The second question to ask yourself is, what is the worst case scenario? What will happen? What will I do if that worst case scenario happens? So it's very funny. You will often find that you're far more resourceful than you give yourself credit for, because as soon as you identify the worst case scenario of taking this action despite being afraid, you will often see that you already have a solution or an answer or a next step that's popping up for you instantly without a lot of thought. So if you're afraid of jumping on a live stream and that fear of what other people think of you, the fear of judgment is holding you back, well, what's the worst case scenario if you show up and do that live stream anyways? What is it for you? Feel free to let me know in the comments if you're here live or you're watching the replay, whatever the situation is for you. So what's the worst case scenario and what are you going to do if that happens? For me, the worst case scenario is that I stutter, or I don't sound very coherent, or I maybe don't get my point across. And what am I going to do if that happens? Well, I'm still going to do my best, and ultimately it will be okay. Like, this really doesn't have any significant consequence that I can identify in the moment. So instantly that's making me feel better. Instantly, now that I've identified the worst case scenario, I can do something with that. So we want to, identify question 1, what are you actually afraid of? Question 2, what is the worst case scenario and what will you do if that worst case scenario happens? The third question to ask yourself when you're experiencing fear and we need to overcome it is, what is the best case scenario and what will be possible for me if that happens? This is where you can start to get excited about the possibilities and the benefits of taking the action through the fear. So again, if we're going through the example of showing up on a live stream, even though you are nervous or afraid, the best case scenario is that you make a new connection. You really connect with your audience. You help them. You change someone's life. You potentially get a new client, right? So there's a lot of potential outcomes. And what will that do for you? That could mean revenue. That could mean growing your audience. That could mean establishing your expertise, practicing, talking about your business and your zone of genius. Lots of different opportunities there that can start to highlight and tell your conscious self, all the different reasons why it's worth doing this. The fourth question, when you're trying to overcome fear and take action in the moment, that you need to answer is, what will happen if I don't do anything at all? And what risk is worth taking? So if you don't do anything and you don't take action at all, what is that actually going to do for you? What's the outcome of that? What would that mean for you and your business? Is the best case scenario worth the risk? Is the worst case scenario something you can move through and work through? Which risk are you taking? The risk of doing something and having the best or worst case scenario, or the risk of doing nothing and having no result, being held back, slowed down, not doing anything, not showing up in the way you want to, not making an impact, not getting better, not practicing. So we want to really get honest with ourselves and say, is this risk worth it? And which one am I going to do? And then the fifth question to ask yourself, the final and fifth question when you're trying to take action through fear in the moment, is how can you commit to your decision, get support, and then take action as quickly as possible? Assuming you're going to do it and take the action despite the risk, can you do something to make it easier? Can you share that you're going to do this with a friend or a team member? Could you potentially systemize this in some way, maybe add it to your schedule? And how can you commit to doing this and moving forward, which will look different depending on what the actual thing that is that you're trying to overcome fear with. So those are the practical, tactical ways you can overcome fear in the moment. It's by asking yourself those simple questions. And it is simple. Like I said, the first time you're going through this, the first several times you're getting into the habit of overcoming fear, you might have to actually write out and journal out your answers to these questions. But trust me, once you do this a couple of times, your brain can just quickly work through that scenario and you can step up to the plate and work through the fear regardless, because you understand the best, the worst, and what risk is worth taking. So this is it. In order to overcome fear in your business, we've got to make those simple mindset shifts in your business. We have to understand why fear is happening, that our goal is not to get rid of fear forever, and that it's okay to experience fear. We just need to work through it and take action in order to overcome the fear. And then in the moment, every single time you're experiencing fear and noticing that it's holding you back, you can ask yourself those 5 simple questions to then spur you to take action despite the fear. So it's that simple, right? Sometimes it feels so insurmountable, but it really boils down to quite a simple solution. And you know what? Like I said, experiencing fear is normal. You're a human, so there should be no guilt or negative self-talk around when you experience fear. It's just about taking action anyways. So if this was helpful, I'd love to hear from you. If you're here live or if you're watching the replay, leave a comment, give me a reaction. If you're listening to this on a podcast, once it gets repurposed over there, feel free to let us know on Instagram and tag us. And please share this with a friend if you think this would be helpful with one of your business friends that you know. I also just want to let you know that we run a high-level 12-month group coaching program over here in my business called Empowered CEO, where we specialize in helping online business owners just like you learn how to truly step into the role of CEO, feel calm and confident on a daily basis, and learn how to build a business in a way that is scalable, sustainable, and profitable. That includes building your team, getting your systems in order, and having a really smart, scalable strategy in place. If you are interested in learning more about Empowered CEO, or maybe have thought about applying before, but maybe just haven't taken that action yet, I want to encourage you to apply as soon as you can, because the price of Empowered CEO, the investment to join Empowered CEO, is increasing at the end of October because we've been rolling out some incredible new features. Brand new curriculum is getting released by the end of the year. We have one-on-one accountability coaches. So you do get one-on-one coaching when you join us in Empowered CEO. We do co-working sessions, weekly coaching calls, feedback sessions, and so much more. And because of that, the investment is increasing permanently at the end of October. So go to meganmins.com/apply in order to learn more and apply before the investment increases forever. So again, meganmins.com/apply to learn more about Empowered CEO. Thank you so much for joining me live while we were talking about this, and be sure to join my free Facebook community or follow along on Instagram so that you can check out these weekly live streams we do every single week. So if you want to follow along on Instagram, you can go to Megan_Mins over on Instagram and follow me there. And you can also join our free Facebook community for online entrepreneurs. You can go to meganmins.com/community, request to join, and we'll see you in there. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Productive Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much to me if you would share your biggest takeaway on your Instagram stories or wherever you hang out. This helps me understand what you find the most helpful so that I can make more episodes and resources like this. If this podcast has helped you at all, please take just 1 minute to leave a review on iTunes so that we can help spread the word about the Productive Life podcast with others who may enjoy it. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest episodes sent to you directly. To learn how to work with me one-on-one or get instant access to freebies, trainings, templates, workshops, and more, be sure to go to meganmins.com right now. I'll see you in the next episode.